I just wanted to start just by reading our land acknowledgements. So OCAD University acknowledges the ancestral territories of the Sagas of the Credit, the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat, who are the original owners and custodians of the land on which we work and stand.
It's good? Okay, great. Good morning. My name is Orus. I'm going to show you a quick trailer of what I'm working on, and then I'll answer the question, who is this person up at the front? What are they talking about? And what does it all have to do with the climate crisis? So I'm going to go ahead and play this trailer here. So I'll open up with some key points after showing you that trailer, just to get a sense of the visual language of what I'll be sharing about. My name is Orus Mateo Castano-Suarez. I use they, them pronouns. I am a refugee settler in Toronto. I was born in Abya. I'm of mixed Indigenous and settler descent. And I'm under the tutelage of Rauch, who is a Migizi Dodem or Eagle clan of mixed nations from the east side of Winnipeg. And I also benefit from the tutelage of knowledge keepers from Vedic and Taoist lineages. I want to also note a few other points of social positioning. I am neurodivergent, I am queer, and I am disabled. I'm leaning into identity because I want us to get to know each other, but also because my work is about working across difference from within intentionally created, particularly capacious, liminal environments. I also want to start with a word of thanks for the 2024 graduating cohort of Digital Futures, because they've been particularly welcoming in my transition from another program, as well as to GPD's Cindy Bremba and Kate Hartman, who have helped so much in that process, to my primary research advisor, Adam Tyndale, and to Sarah Diamond, thank you for being here today. In the extension of social positioning and the work that I do, I also want to mention that I'm part of a working group on spirituality and the arts, where I contribute around sacred semiotics and virtual spaces, as well as a working group for three-dimensional modeling of text mining and artificial intelligence, generative artificial intelligence. And I also want to thank the Ontario Graduate Scholarship that supports my work. Some keywords you can watch out for in the presentation are networks, information visualization, knowledge translation, climate crisis, and research co-creation. The research problem and research question that I'm tackling is contextualized by the hyperobject of the climate crisis. It's a scary time. It feels to me like I have less and less power to make an impact. So I intend to look across the aisle, so to speak, of various disciplines in order to find inspiration from other colleagues and other people doing interesting work. So the work that I'm doing is dedicated to that interdisciplinary knowledge translation in order to build solutions together. And my research question currently, because it changes hourly, is can we accelerate climate crisis knowledge translation by innovating tools and protocols that stack emergent information visualization tools, generative AI technology, and digital scholarship database tools. Within those three camps, I'll articulate which tools I'm using in order to contextualize what you can expect. Under information visualization, I am using Blender, TensorFlow, and Obsidian. Under digital scholarship database tools, I'm using Logseq as my primary interface. And under generative AI, I'm using Infranotice as a part of, as an extension of the working group that I'm a part of. I'll note as well that information visualization in the context of my work is about examining groups of data and texts as opposed to presenting them. This is built for the researcher. This is built for someone who is working through and finding clarity in confusion, to borrow a term from Adam Tyndall. In the significance of my work, I would position it as relevant to digital scholarship in that I'm developing tools and techniques for examining texts with richer semiotic affordances, which allows for deeper and more rapid engagement with materials across research disciplines. I'm targeting specifically the accelerating of climate resilience research across sectors like government, industry, religion, and academia. As an outline to my contribution and as a walkthrough of my demo, I'm going to reset and begin a walkthrough. I have set up an enhanced digital scholarship workflow using the tool called Logseq by intervening and creating indices with the guidance of digital scholarship frameworks, metadata frameworks coded in Markdown. The database itself has been structured around a methodology called Zettelkasten, which is from a German sociologist called Niklas Luhmann, who was particularly prolific because of the way he structured the connections in his work. As I scrub through, I'll also mention that the interface that you see here is has been built around additional interventions from the work that I've been doing, including the addition of an interface for designs for an interface for data QL diagrams, and I'll explain what I mean by that. I am suggesting as part of my work that the vector databases and semantic search of those databases using large language models can benefit from additional interfaces for the user that allows for more transparency of the use of large language models, which typically work behind a kind of black box, and adding additional points of entry for those semantic search. As you would see here, this little constellation would be the beginnings of a way to find particular clusters of vectors and the way that they're related within a large language model. As I move through, I will show you my my next intervention, which is a taxonomy of three-dimensional data forms within the information visualization space. I suggest that we move past what is the current standard, which is a spherical representation of radial disks. Currently, we have the majority of data visualizations at the bottom left, which are two-dimensional flat mind maps, if you will. I tend to facetiously refer to my work as fancy mind maps for the climate crisis, just to give you a sense. But I'd like to move forward into a space where we can build upon different kinds of geometries and topologies in order to arrive at deeper representations of complex ideas. To give you a walkthrough, we have a cylinder as the built idea of a disk circling in onto a ring torus, followed by a cone as a representation of tree diagrams, the sphere, which I mentioned, and then the final representation at the end, which is a cumulative and consecutive sum of those forms, which is the horn torus. So this form represents the cylinder as well as the cone at the top and at the bottom, which allows for representations of abductive reasoning, so both deductive and inductive reasoning. In terms of methodologies and approaches, I'll mention that I'm working on 3 qualitative methodologies: literature review, including the survey of information visualizations and their taxonomies, iterating data model topologies and databases with the tools mentioned earlier, Blender, Obsidian, Logseq, and expert interviews, including physicists, experimental multidimensional text analysis, coders, digital scholarship librarians, population health data scientists, and AI and text mining company co-founders. From the literature review up to this point, I find that there is a distinct limitation around the forms that are used in these visualizations. They tend towards the sphere, and what I'm looking to do is expand beyond that. In terms of my work schedule, this is my final point as I wrap up the presentation, and then we'll open it up for questions. I have finished my first batch of interviews with experts in August. I am moving into literature and contextual review for September. October, I will be doing an advanced practice demo. November, I'll be doing the first draft of my thesis, and ongoing will be prototyping, experimenting, and further interviews. So with that, I would appreciate receiving questions from both folks who are in the room and folks who are joining me on Teams as I develop the ideas further. Thank you.
So it looks as if your respondent enables me here in person, which is part of the function of.
Sarah's the secondary.
Oh, it's
Isabel.
Oh, okay, then I'll forms one.
Oh, apologies.
So sorry, then, if Isabel is respondent, I'm sorry about the form being
I didn't know about respondent because I had a meeting. I thought.
Oh, sorry. I'll own
that.
that, and I apologize for that. I apologize for that, but it would be appreciated if I could ask for your feedback.
Yes, thank you, Isabel.
I was not prepared for that, but anytime. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, the question, I think it is very ambitious. It's all my theories, the limited amount of time. I know you've worked super hard and you've done a lot, but I would try to narrow down. So even when I think about the people whose data you were looking to help them with, you know, you mentioned digital humanities librarians, you mentioned physicists and other. I was not taking notes because I was not prepared for that. But so I wonder whether narrowing down would be helpful to you. And the second part is there are some, you know, because eventually, you know, the needs of a digital humanities librarian, right, that actually is working with already, you know, semantic data or relational data and so on, are going to be different from a physicist. Perhaps, sure. You know, physicists, you know, depending also on what they are working. You know, some physicists work on physics, but also on other, you know, in network science, there's a plethora of topics that people are working with: economics, with food, with whatever. And I think it can be beneficial, including, you know, understanding why certain models will be better for them and for what purposes. Because in my view, visualization is, you know, you need the audience, right, in order to understand if what we're trying to help them with is actually.
I should add that the scope of the practice is limited to the knowledge translation around IPCC reports and their application to the social sciences currently as the scope of what I'm applying. I'm particularly concerned about folks working in mental health and climate grief. That's the sort of inroad that I'm attending to the most currently. And when I mentioned physicists, they were the person I worked with, Michael Dozer, was particularly useful in understanding some of the topologies, but not in their application across the social sciences. So that was more in the consultancy pocket as opposed to the application and practice.
So it actually helps within the IPCC, within the whole climate change thing. also narrowing down to a particular area, because the more you narrow, the more you're able to actually kind of iterate and have this dialogue, in my view, right? So that it can help you move forward. And I would have some comments in terms of the other resources for looking at some visualization, and that's looking at network problem visualization, which is a hard problem, because of low links are can get spaghetti very fast, and so wonderful that we were working in that area. And so,
thank you for the encouragement.
I was if you joined online to leave sort of questions and comments in the sort of chat. It may well be that that happens synchronously outside of the frame of this. I don't know if anybody else had questions about this. Yeah, thank you. So I want to build up on that first response. So, because we have the encounter over the summer and learned more about your research, so that's very productive. You can see how you came here. So I was wondering about your methodology, I think in particular. If it's really a tool or a theory, a speculative theory that you're building, unless you have applied studies. So no one wants to take the interdisciplinary aspect away. But I think if you say, yeah, I'm working with activists in particular, I have 2 case studies that I want to demonstrate how they're using my tool. And then you can build from applied using your tool a new methodology that you're suggesting. And that would probably build into a PhD research because it's so big and beautiful. And I think we all appreciate the depth of the study and the accuracy of your articulation. So you really set a tone for today. I don't think it's ambitious, but I think by now, maybe scaling down a little bit, I think you will get a more precise piece of knowledge out of this research.
Thank you so much.
Otherwise, it stays in a vague area of, it could be this, it could be that. My second comment is maybe more a question of the selection of disciplines that you have chosen to include. Let's say always question religion over psychology, computer sciences. So maybe you need to articulate your choices a little bit more and support it with literature. For example, when you mention, data research is done in a spheric way, we say that. Bracket author, boom, boom, boom. So it's not a mere statement of yours, but it's a supported statement. That's my 2 comments.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you so much. If I can just take the opportunity, because I have you all in the room, and I'm taking advantage of this as kind of like a workshop in a sense in the last 4 minutes that I have. Considering the scope of what I'm doing, applying case studies and methodologies, can I open that up maybe to Isabel as a maybe a counterpoint, or to anyone else for what might be inroads that are timely around that? Say, for example, I spoke to a digital scholarship librarian from UBC yesterday, and she was saying one of the things that we're struggling with right now is how to allocate which researcher to which project. So what kind of semantic searches can we use that are informed by the content of the research, not just by their label? So this is an application that I am putting kind of on the roadmap. What other some such applications might you think about?
And so, as you were talking, and I think that is a good way in terms of case study, right? I hope everyone can hear me. But that is a search find thing. So if someone is using whatever visualization or that is a relational one, right? So it's about relationships, so it can find a path, or it can find who is also doing similar things. So there are different scenarios that we can think about, But that is a search and find and retrieve and collect kind of performance, right? Whereas I understood also that you're working with people in psychology or with the IPCC, that eventually they might want to interpret. So the interpretation of the relationships or whatever is there is a very different task that one goes about when looking at a visualization that not necessarily involves searching for something. So sometimes we are searching for a person that is also doing similar things or whatever, and being able to visualize that. So to give an example, when we look at certain models that are out there, and I forget the name, on Google, there's a suite of tools that they've built with machine learning, and they have the relationship between translations, right? So eventually you're looking for a word in English, and what would, how do we know what that word is in Japanese or in Portuguese, and so on and so forth. So it's a specific search that would help someone working with translation, which is very different from a semantic interpretation. Once we get that word, is that the context that we are thinking about? So it's the interpretation of what is given back to me in terms of does it make sense, because words are semantically, contextually can be different, right? Different words for different purposes. So I think if you clarify, so the task that the librarian at UBC mentioned seem to be more like a searching or connecting people or making it visible for them, whereas some other tasks that include interpretation and other things or new creations might involve other types of visual structures.
Thank you so much.